As a child of the late 90s and the early 2000s, exposure to games that you weren't aware of was very limited. You had either magazines, TV, word of mouth, or a random birthday or Christmas gift. For birthdays and Christmas, you either got some good games that you weren't expecting but turned out that you did like it, or you got some bad games where you hated it, or maybe you did like it. The point is, today's time is totally different than it was 20 plus years ago. If you want to know about new games that are coming out or games you've never heard of, it's so easy to find that information out today. It wasn't like that at all 20 plus years ago. Japan definitely had more games than America and PAL regions. They had about 2,000 or so, and a lot of them were just kind of unnecessary games and some, stinkers, but there's some pretty good games that we never received. I'm going to go over 8 games that were released only in Japan that you should definitely try looking into or check out, because these are actually some decent games. Some of you guys might know for sure, but there might be some that you've never even heard of. Like I do with a lot of my list videos, one game per franchise, one game per genre. With that being said, let's dive into the 8 games I chose that are Japan only PS1 games that are definitely worth playing. Number 1. This game here is for sure predictable to put on the list, but I had to talk about it because some people definitely know about this game, but there's definitely others who don't even know about this. The Adventure of Little Ralph is seriously a freaking must-play. If you love 2D action platformers, you're gonna love this game. It has good sword action, tight controls, good level design, awesome music, fun boss battles, and the boss battles are like one-on-one fighting. So it's got a very cool spin on it with only 2 buttons, X and square. That's all you're gonna be using with the game. I did review this game a couple weeks ago, so if you haven't seen the game or even heard about it or are just curious, definitely check it out. Links in the description. One thing to disclaim though about this whole list is a lot of these games are very expensive, so I'm not going to really share prices much. Little Ralph is obviously like half a grand, so definitely don't want to look into that. For my personal pick, if you're going to play any game that's on this list that I'm about to talk about, definitely make it Little Ralph. This is definitely one of the best games I've played that's not ever come out in America, and you should play it too. It's a great time. Number 2. Poppin' Tanks is a game that I found out about recently that definitely caught my eye with the artwork. This game looked pretty cool, and it's basically just a third-person shooter, vehicular combat kind of game. And you're in these like little colorful tanks. The controls do take getting used to play this game. They're not hard, but they're kind of weird. But once you figure out how to play it, this game's a load of fun. You just blast the other opponent just all the way with bombs and such, and you even got like a little Gatling gun too, and a super move. So it's pretty fun. It is only one-on-one. I kind of wish this was like a 4-player game, because it would be so fun if it was 4-player. But for what it is, this is actually a pretty cool game. Not to mention, there's some customization elements in this game too if you play story mode, so that's a really nice touch. The only problem is, it's all in Japanese, but not the whole game, so it's definitely playable and somewhat readable to a degree, but you're probably going to scratch your head on what some of the stuff is. There might be a patch out there possibly for this game, but I'm not 100% sure on that. If you like Twisted Metal or stuff like that, and you want to play a game that's very cartoony and we never got it, that has pretty good gameplay, I would definitely check out Poppin' Tanks. This one's kind of fun. Number 3. Shoot 'em ups only being in Japan is a very common thing. That was very common for the Sega Saturn days as well as the PS1, but man, Airgrave is just a badass shoot 'em up. Shoot 'em ups can definitely be sort of similar to each other because of how they play and their very simple gameplay, but Airgrave, it definitely does its own thing here. It takes ideas from Xevious and just executes it a little bit better, I think. You shoot with the square button, and then of course you can actually hold square, and you can lock onto ground targets and shoot rockets as well. You'll shoot mini rockets too as you're shooting, and man, it's just a lot of stuff going on, and it all flows so well. I didn't notice any slowdown when I was playing this game. This game is just visually stunning, as well as the music is pretty good, and of course the boss fights. and the boss fights are super fun. They come in this three-dimensional texture polygon thing, and then it all becomes a battle, and it's just, I don't know, it's kind of satisfying. Definitely old school 90s PS1 at its finest. If you like shooters and you've never played Airgrave, well, you definitely need to play this any way possible. Number 4. Lup Cube, aka Lup Salad, which is a very strange title, is a puzzle platform kind of game. And there's not really much to this game. You just push blocks together and make them connect and they'll disappear. But the real strength of this game is definitely the level design. The game feels similar to stuff like Solomon's Key, but definitely plays differently. And there's a lot of challenge when you start playing this game. When you move the blocks, you gotta be very strategic on where you can go. You can technically jump up one square and even jump across a square. You're able to do that, but you gotta be very careful with what you do, because if you go down in the hole, you won't be able to get up and you'll have to try again. I love me a good puzzle platformer. I wanted to recommend Yo-Yo's Puzzle Park for this video. Unfortunately though, this actually is in Europe too, so I wasn't able to qualify for this list. Lup Salad though, definitely check this one out if you like the puzzle platform genre. Number 5. Lucifer Ring is a 3D beat-em-up hack-and-slash kind of game, and it was made by the same guys who also made Crisis Beat 2, which was also in Japan only. This game is pretty cool though. It's got like a medieval style setting. It reminds me of stuff like Magic Sword or Knights of the Round on Super Nintendo, but just in the third dimension. But it controls pretty good. Every action's pretty quick. You can jump, you can attack, and do a heavy attack, and do a special attack too when you fill your blue meter up. What's so weird is this game is almost all in English, except for the story at the beginning of the game. Literally every menu is English, you know what's going on. It makes you wonder if they're going to bring this game out in the West, but I don't think a title like Lucifer's Ring would fly over here in the States. One drawback with this game though, there is no co-op. It is a single player only game. Not sure why they decided to do that, but just know that when you go into this game. If you like 3D beat-em-ups or just, beat-em-ups in general, definitely try out Lucifer's Ring. It's a good time. Number 6. Zig Zag Ball is a weird and wacky looking game when you cut this game on. This game is pretty much just a mini golf game at its core, but with a twist. It plays just like stuff like Hot Shots Golf or something in a way, but the objective of the course is just to get to the very end and get into the hole. But in order to get to the hole, you have to go through these like little red rings, and if you don't go through those rings, well, you can't get to the hole. So it gives a little bit of a twist to it, but once you start playing the game, it can be a little bit of a fun time. Nothing too revolutionary or anything, but it's just cool to see golf games get something like this that's different than the main formula, like the Tiger Woods games or something like that. Sports games is probably one of my least favorite genres when it comes to games, but there are some good sports games. I would say Zig Zag Ball is a game I was not expecting to be kind of fun, so I'd play this any way possible. Number 7. Speedpower Gunbike was a game that came out in 1998 for the PS1, developed by AnyCreates and published by Sony. Yeah, AnyCreates is a developer that people definitely know about. They made the Mega Man Zero games on Game Boy Advance, Bloodstained series, as well as the Ozzy Striker Gunvault series, which that series is very similar to Mega Man Zero playstyle. But yeah, they've made a lot of cool stuff, cool platformers and such. Speedpower Gunbike is their first game they ever developed, and it was on the PS1. I guess you would just call this like some kind of third-person action game. I thought it was a racing game at first, but it's definitely not. But the controls of this one are very strange. Just to kind of simplify it though, you're on this bike and you can change forms from a bike to like this mech thing when you hit square. And you can do different actions and such too when you are in the mech mode. You can charge into things and break obstacles, especially enemies too when you come across them, but you can go back into your motorcycle mode and go really, really fast. So it's kind of cool whenever you learn how to do the shifting. You can be going super fast on the motorcycle, come across an obstacle, change really quickly to little mech guy. You can just press the X button and you can just charge into stuff. It kind of reminds me of Transformers, how they're vehicles and they can shift into robots. This is the same thing here, but apparently this was inspired by 80s sci-fi anime. This game just has really good visuals overall. It's incredibly stellar. It just looks fantastic. This is one I would definitely check out as a curiosity too if you're interested in where Indie Crate started. But if you're looking for a good third-person action game on the PS1 and you've played all of them to death on the PS1 in America, check out this game. This is definitely an interesting one. Tough controls to learn, but I bet if you master it, it's a lot of fun. Number 8. Policenauts is a game I've been wanting to play for a long time now, and I finally got a chance to try it out and see what I thought. This game is definitely considered a cult classic. It was only released in Japan originally, but it has been translated since, so it is playable in English now. This game is a graphic adventure, visual novel kind of game. It's very similar to the Snatcher game that was released on Sega CD and such, and we did get that game, but that game costs about as much as my mortgage does. The game revolves around the beginning. It starts with these guys that are in space. They work for the police, so they're called Policenauts since they're in outer space. Well, some stuff happens. Years pass by, and you're this guy named Jonathan Ingram, and you're a detective. And this game is very story heavy, but the big key with this game, a little bit like Snatcher, you can kind of move around and look at stuff in your surroundings, and you can kind of click on stuff, get more info, and you'll eventually trigger an event to happen that way. It's got all the bells and whistles of a graphic adventure game. I don't play too many of these kind of games, so I haven't really got much experience with this kind of stuff, but people love Policenauts, so this is one I'm going to have to play through all the way someday. If you want to play a good Konami title that came out back in the day that we never got, you should definitely check this one out. This was one of Hideo Kojima's early games too, and people love this game, so I take their word for it. Check it out any way you can. And there you have it. Those are 8 Japan-only PS1 games that are worth playing that you should definitely check out and play any way you can. It can be overwhelming to search for stuff that you've never played before, especially when it's in another language, but just kind of scroll on your phone or on the internet at games that you might look at and just check out and just try them. That's the best way to find out about stuff you've never heard of, and you also learn something new about video games, so it's always cool, and just cool to see the stuff that we never got that existed back when we were kids and we were younger. There's a ton of other Japan-only PS1 games I could recommend, but this video would get a little too long, so maybe someday I'll make another video like this and talk about some more from Japan. If there was a game that you didn't see on this list that you wanted to see, well, leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear games that either I don't know about or others that we should do in other videos for the future. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoy this content, be sure to give it a like. If you got something to say, leave a comment down below. And of course, if you want to see more content like this in the future, be sure to hit the subscribe button. Thanks again for watching. Take it easy.